Good evening, everyone. It is 6:30, and I welcome all of you to the Joint City Council Study Session and Planning Commission agenda. Will you please all stand with me to say the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. And we'll do roll call. Joe, do you want to start? Go ahead.
Sure.
Okay.
Commissioner Huggins.
Here.
Commissioner DeVoynes. Commissioner Bowman. Commissioner Patizzi.
Here.
Commissioner Jasper.
Present.
Commissioner Frenette, present. Commissioner Sexton.
Here.
County.
Did you get Madison going? Yes. Yes. Perfect. Do you want to introduce Madison? Can I introduce Madison?
You want me to do it? Oh, yeah. Madison Woman works for BYK Construction as their project manager. And she's been invited to join us on the planning commission. She brings awesome background with permit review, planning experience, and has a good understanding of market rate housing, development, that sort of things. I don't know if you want to add anything else.
Pretty much summed it up. I'm excited to be here. Very grateful that you're willing to serve the community this way. So thank you very much, Madison. I'll do the council roll call. So Kevin Lloyd.
Here.
Joellen Kesty. Sarah Diamond. Not here. Alan Henderson.
Here. Oh, I think I see her.
I'll call her in a minute. Paul Cock.
Here.
Joe Burns.
Here.
Nick LaBaca.
Here.
And joining us now is Sarah Diamond. All right. Moving into approval of the agenda. This is a regular agenda. It's not a consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the general or the agenda.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. So we have a motion by Councilman LaBaca, seconded by Councilman Cock. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Great. It'll be a good discussion tonight. Before we move into public comment, I just wanted to make everybody aware of one thing. You may know somebody, you may live upriver, or maybe you know somebody who lives upriver, but tomorrow Puget Sound Energy is going to be they're going to do a test. It's an early warning siren system for the Baker River dams. This is going to be tomorrow, Wednesday, between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. And the siren and operational assessments will be done to ensure safety for the whole community if there should be, and God forbid, ever a dam breach. The sirens will be from Hamilton to Concrete and all the communities in between, Birdsview and all of them. So just so you are aware, and if you hear anything about it, that's what's going on. Wednesday's testing will include sirens and 2 verbal messages. So just so you are aware. So thank you for that. Now we will move into public comment. I believe we do have a public comment. Yes. Mr. DeYoung? Yes, go up to the podium. And you have included in your packet what is a community review report, and this was submitted by Mr. DeYoung, and he's going to give us an overview of this. So,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good evening, Mayor, Council Member, Commissioner, staff, and neighbors. My name is Carl DeYoung, and I'm a resident and a homeowner at 1101 Fidalgo Street. And thank you for the chance to speak during this first review of the Sedro-Woolley Comprehensive Plan public review draft. And I have submitted written reports for the public record, and I'll keep my remarks focused on 3 things: what the plan gets right, what needs tightening to meet the 2025 update, and what we should do next. What the plan gets right, it points to growth in the right places, downtown and our mixed-use areas, so more people can live close to shops, schools, and services. It shows enough capacity on paper for the homes and jobs we expect through 2045, including important job space at the Swift Center. It sets clear transportation standards and lists priority projects for safety, walking, biking, and transit. It treats climate and resilience as part of everyday planning, recognizing heat, wildfires, flooding, and the value of a tree canopy and clean water. What needs tightening for the 2025 update is housing. Add measurable annual housing targets by income level so we can track whether we're delivering homes for local workers, seniors, and families on a fixed income. Climate mobility. Set a baseline and targets for vehicle miles traveled per person and for greenhouse gas emissions, with clear milestones for 2030 and 2035, so residents can see progress. Funding. Finish the transportation revenue and financing section before adoption, so people can see how we'll pay for the projects tied to our level of service and safety goals. And then practical steps. Adopt a simple one-page public scorecard each year, homes built by income brand, a few climate and mobility indicators, safety fixes delivered, and key capital projects moving forward. And align zoning and street design with the plan's downtown and mixed-use strategy, so private investment builds places we say we want. Move priority walking, biking, safe crossing, and transit access projects into grant-ready concept designs now, so Sedro-Woolley can compete for state and federal dollars. And keep at least one climate resilience project like riparian or floodplain restoration in construction each year, and make those commitments visible in the 6-year capital plan. If you look at these improvements, clear targets, a public scorecard, finished funding, and early design work, we'll feel this plan on the ground within the next 2 years. Safer crossings, better access to transit, and real progress on housing. Thank you for your service and for considering these suggestions. I appreciate the staff's hard work and the Planning Commission's volunteer time. I respectfully request that my written report and appendix be included. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you, Mr. Duran. Is there anybody else for public comment? Okay, hearing none, we will close public comment. And that leads us right into, there isn't any unfinished business, so it moves us right into new business. And I'm going to turn this over to you, Mr. Glover.
Great, thank you. Tom Glover, Community Development Director for the city. Since spring of 24, the city has been working to update its comprehensive plan. During that time, we've had a number of meetings, including open house presentations, community forums, and online surveys with stakeholders and our community residents. This plan comprises 9 chapters, starting with the vision for the community and the plan introduction, and wrapping up with the last chapter concerning climate change resiliency. During this process, the city hired Facet to help us with the update process. Comes with a lot of experience working with communities and aligning state goals for comprehensive plans updates with the local communities. Tonight, we're having our joint meeting. It's an opportunity for you to both mingle with your respective commissions and councils, and to ask questions together in this format. You both are seeing the first draft of the complete document now. And I say that each of you have seen chapters as we've gone along. So this is the first time you've seen the whole thing put together at once. I also am reminded as a housekeeping item, just to, since we have this, the owl here in the center of the room, to project your voice, speak loudly. We don't have our usual microphone system, so it's kind of hard to gauge how effective we're going to be kind of shouting across, but we ask you please do your best. So after tonight, at some point, we'll be holding a public open house where we're going to present the document. This is a draft document and it is now out there in the public, but we understand there's more tweaking to do and editing and to get it to where we want it. Then at some point, the Planning Commission will be asked to hold a public hearing. and then forward their recommendation along with public comments received to date back to the city council. The city council is not required to have a public hearing. You can if you want to. But our goal then is to bring everything back to city council with planning commission's recommendation. So I think that's all I have. And I'd like to turn it over to Donna, who's got our presentation. See you.
Great. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
As you all know, my name is Donna Keeler. I'm with Bassett, and with me tonight, Matt Covert and Alex Plum. They're here virtually, and they'll be presenting part of this presentation. Woody, would you be able to bring up the first slide? Awesome, thank you. Can you move on to the next one? So just for just members of the public who are here who might be new to this process, and just as a reminder, just wanted to quickly go over, what is the purpose of this process we've been doing for the last year and a half? What is a comprehensive plan? It's really intended to be a blueprint for our future, encapsulates community goals, vision, and values, and establishes policies to guide future development consistent with that vision. Also helps figure out priorities for spending over a 20-year horizon, and it's also a requirement under the Growth Management Act. Next. So up here we have the plan elements or plan chapters or sections, and the ones on the left are required under the Growth Management Act, which are land use and housing, parks, recreation, open space, transportation, capital facilities, utilities, and the new one this time is climate. And you also have some optional ones in your plan, which is a vision statement and land acknowledgement and the economic development element. Next. So you may recall we showed this slide to you before, but just wanted to remind you we had some changes. We changed the format and the look of the plan. On the left is what it used to, well, this is what it looks like now. It's color themed. And we also introduced a plan at a glance page. Next. And here on the left is kind of the look of the 2016 plan. And now we changed it to add a few more photographs. It's got a singular column versus 2 columns and broken up a little bit more so it's easier to read. Next. Also, I won't read this. But everybody in this room worked very hard on coming up with a new vision for the city. So that's been introduced into the plan. And also we maintain the previous vision statements, which you had for all the different elements, and we inserted them into the different elements. Next. So this is just an overview of what I just mentioned. In addition to adding the acknowledgement section, plan at a glance page, we updated population data, housing data, removed outdated information, added the GMA climate change and resiliency section, and also the goals as well. We updated the goals and moved the element specific vision statements to other elements. Next. I'm going to turn this over to Matt. Matt, are you here? Go ahead.
I'm here. Can you hear me? Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
we can hear you, but you might speak up a little bit, please.
Okay. My headset might be needing adjusting a little bit. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's better.
Perfect. Okay. So some important things changed in the land use element as drafted. Some other important things stayed mostly the same. So one of the things that stayed the same in the land use element is the existing kind of density ranges for the residential zones is maintained from the previous plan. The city's aiming to meet its, we'll talk about the housing element next, but its housing element obligations through some different methods. One of the big things that changed, that you would see on the map at least, is that after the last 8 years of the transitional mixed commercial overlay district, the city proposing to transition that to a permanent district called the Makers District, along with some development regulations changes within. So it'll no longer be an overlay, but rather a permanent zone. And then in terms of policies and goals, the kind of the meat and potatoes of the element, some policies were added based on changing requirements of the Growth Management Act. We also specifically focused some policies on from community vision side of things on supporting the central business district. And we also had to incorporate some policies incorporating climate resilience to comply with the requirements of the law, the new statute on climate resilience and GHG emissions reduction element, including reducing wildfire risk.
Yeah.
Just like, hey, Matt,
Matt. So you're
Yes.
breaking up somewhat. We're wondering if that could be adjusted. I don't know, Woody, can you help with that at all?
I feel we might miss a bit of it, maybe some very important info, and it might be pretty long.
Can you hear me better now?
Well, we can. It's a matter of whether or not as you speak, if you continue to break up or not.
You're
Okay.
going.
Yeah, we'll try. I apologize. I was trying to use my a headset because of a weed whacker outside my window, but we will proceed and hope this works a little better. So I can, if there was did you hear the part about the residential zones and the transitional mixed commercial overlay?
can you hear
It's
us?
your connection, Matt.
No.
Yeah, it'd be a pretty hard meeting
Yeah.
if you're conveying information.
This does not seem to be working, does it? Yeah. I may have
We
to
can-
let me try.
We can
I'll
cover
try turning my
without
video
you,
off and see
Matt.
if that helps. I'll turn my video off and see if that helps. I'll try again. Raise a hand or interrupt. Oh, great! Now there's a lawnmower. Okay, I'm gonna turn my speakers off and turn back over to Donna. I apologize.
I think the last bit that Matt was trying to say that he was going to hand it over to Donna.
Okay, okay. All right, I'll try my best to cover for Matt. Okay. So I'll just kind of go ahead and start again with this slide so you all are familiar with the transitional mixed commercial zone overlay zone. And so we recommended that we change it from an overlay zone to an actual zoning district, and that's what we're recommending in this plan. To now a new Makers District which will be mixed use, which will include housing in addition to a variety of commercial uses. We also maintained existing densities in all the zones, like Matt mentioned, and we added or built on policy supporting the central business district and incorporated policies addressing the climate resilience. And you'll notice there's a climate resilience policy in almost every chapter at part of the requirement under the Growth Management Act. Next. So under the housing element, we try to find ways to be creative here without increasing density, because we know that was not something that you wanted. But at the same time, you're required to address housing for different income bands, which is something new this round. So we looked at your existing zoning districts, what you could put in there, what your capacity is. And luckily, fortunately, you do have enough land capacity. If we add a few more things like different programs, incentive programs, density bonuses, so we put in policies that would bolster programs, ability to get grants, ability to provide density bonuses for affordable housing, things like that. And you also are in the process of adopting a cottage ordinance. I hear it's kind of It's gone through the planning commission, it's been going to council. That's going to help a lot in the middle housing arena. You already allow ADUs, that's helping a lot. We added new policies and actions related to displacement risk and protecting existing naturally occurring affordable housing like mobile home parks. And we revised the revision of policies and actions to make them a little more specific and actionable and easier to understand. Next. The economic development element, again, here we introduced the concept of creating a new permanent zoning district, the Makers District, to boost the local economy, added priorities from the 2024 Sedro-Woolley Economic Development Action Plan, and policies bolstering the promotion of industrial and light manufacturing. Also ways to improve downtown, enhancing the downtown area, and economic diversification, adding also more broader range of jobs, which is something that you all talked about, and bolster policies on the Swift Center. Next. In the transportation element, and Bill is here to talk about it too, we added included policies improving the efficiency of the transportation network and accident prevention. And one of the big changes this year was multimodal level of service standards. That was not required before, but it is today. So now, in the past, it was only level of service standards for roads and cars, but now multimodal also has to have that. So we're working on incorporating that. Included a forecast of multimodal transportation demands and other requirements that are required under the Growth Management Act for transportation. Bill, I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add to that.
Not really.
Yeah, the consultant who worked on that TSI thought did a great job on it. Next. Parks, recreation, trails, and open space element. We also use, when refer to the PROS plan that it hasn't been formally adopted, but your staff worked on in 2024 to incorporate some of the policies that are in there. We know this is a very important topic for residents here in Sedro-Woolley, and added policies to improve cooperation among agencies, to set up the plan so it's more eligible for grants, and also recommended that you continue working on the PROS plan to set you up so that you can get more grants in the future. Next. With the capital facilities and public safety element, we maintain most of the goals and policies from the 2016 plan because they were good. Incorporated data from the new draft sewer and stormwater plans that are being updated right now. Updated the ownership status of the library because the city no longer owns it, and we incorporated fire and police as a sub-element under this chapter. Next. Public utilities element. Bill, I want to just thank him so much for all the work he did on that in the last couple of weeks. He updated all the data in that chapter, took a lot of work, and he did not change any of the goals or policies. They were good. And next. Alex, are you able to talk about the climate element?
Of course. Thanks, Donna. So as we've discussed earlier, the climate element is a new element because Sedro-Woolley is within Skagit County as one of the 11 fastest growing counties, and you have a population of greater than 6,000 as of April 2021. You're also required to do a greenhouse gas emissions reduction sub-element and a resiliency sub-element. We incorporated policy recommendations and strategies to comply with House Bill 1181, which includes reducing greenhouse gas emissions, increasing resilience to climate-related hazards, and advancing environmental justice. We added policies to highlight efforts that the city is already doing to increase resilience to climate-related hazards through development regulations or existing programs. We also incorporated feedback from the Planning Commission and City Council regarding the use of battery storage facilities. So we removed any policies that encouraged or allowed those types of uses. We also added policies or bolstered language focusing on partnerships with existing local and state agencies to benefit the city. Next slide, please. So I know that Tom talked about this a little bit earlier. So the next steps, now that a public draft has been released, are to encourage public review and comments. We intend to do this by conducting a press release, updating the webpage, sending emails, social media, preparing flyers to try to garner public interest. We will also be issuing a SEPA determination, submitting a 60-day notice to commerce. As we talked about earlier, we will be holding an open house event to review the public draft. And then we intend to revise the draft based on comments received and then schedule a public hearing with the Planning Commission. After the public hearing with the Planning Commission, we'll make any revisions and then proceed to City Council for final adoption, hopefully sometime in November or December. Next slide, please. And then this is an opportunity for any questions.
So first of all, I meant to say thank you for you all coming together tonight. So I apologize, I didn't say that right off the bat, but thank you. Yeah, at this point, though, we'd like to open this up for any questions, comments, thoughts, impressions, ideas, suggestions for edits. Some of you have submitted some of those things in writing to us so far, and I appreciate that. It's a lot to go through, I know, but we're not done yet. We have some time. If you don't have anything tonight, please let us know when you do have something. You contact us, we can sit down with you one-on-one, or we can just take your email suggestions. We'll forward them on to our team and take it from there. But for now, I'm opening it up. Yes, Joe.
So we can email our suggestions to Nicole, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, because I got plenty. We won't tie them up here. It'll just.
Okay.
Sound
Okay.
I do have one question about the economic deal. It says new goal and policies on enhancing Sedro-Woolley's business-friendly environment. Is there anybody actively promoting our business or trying to bring businesses in, like out on beating the streets, telling people come to Sedro-Woolley and open a manufacturing plant? Is there anyone actively doing that?
In part, that's our chambers.
Chamber.
Yeah, chamber does that.
And EDAS.
So EDAS is another. Yes.
EDAS, okay. Because I remember Nordic Tug started, it's a big boat manufacturer in Burlington. They started in Woodinville. Jerry Husted was approached, he was the founder, and somebody from Burlington, might have been Don Wick or somebody, EDAS or something, said, come to Burlington, we'll get you a nice big factory here, have it free for a year. And, you know, and they moved the plant from Woodinville to Burlington. They've been there since 1980. And they've employed 160 people there for a while. They're still building boats.
In working with EDAS, so there were a lot of both manufacturers and industries that wanted to come in. They were looking for certain quantity of land, certain size of buildings. Most of them wanted a building already in place. We don't have that.
Yeah.
So there were lots of opportunities that were possible, but have not come. But we have brought in some industry, and we have brought in some new businesses. So it has happened. I think truth be told, a lot of it's organic. I think it depends upon how the city kind of puts things out there, what our tax base is like, how friendly we are, how open we are to new ideas. So, yeah.
So no possibility of incentives or anything like Nordic Tug had like that.
I think it would depend upon the business, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also think that center that's getting built up at Northern State right now, the hospital, it's an entrepreneur business, which is geared towards helping people develop their product and stand that up. If they're standing up local, there's a chance that they might want to build out locally. So that's a possibility for startups. We know that.
With the Innovation Center.
Yeah, in the Innovation Center. So there's been, a number of startups. Obviously, Janicki was a small startup, couple people, and then it became the largest company employing people in Washington this side of Snohomish. And then Sedron's now starting up too. So I would say that innovators and small startups are really been a benefit.
I'll just add, we work closely with the Port of Skagit as well, up at the Swift Center. They own the Swift Center, but we partner with them and with the county to try to bring more uses into that space.
Thank you.
They've not had a lot of success either, so. Again, I think it's organic. Things kind of flow into place when, if we're ready, if we have things ready, things will flow into place.
Washington's tough on business right now. It's 100% true. In fact, businesses are looking Idaho, they're looking at Utah, they're looking at other places in Washington. So getting into smaller communities is difficult in itself, much less. You know, you got your talent pool, you got to have people housing, which they talked about that in this report with EDISC. There's a lot of things that are a challenge with that. In fact, that was one of the things that I was going to mention it's on page 21921, and it's the EDAS report, and it's talking about the report on Economic Development Alliance, because it doesn't have an actual policy number to it. So, but the Alliance County through EDAS overall respondents were optimistic about business environment in Skagit County and would recommend Skagit County as a good place to do business. Key challenges facing the business include, and then the below are the standard bullet points. And I was wondering if we can move those to a sub bullet point, because otherwise it reads all the way down. If they're actually listing what are the challenges from that statement, maybe it can become a sub bullet. And that's page 219 to 21 in the packet. It's the workforce issues, having enough cost of development and regulations are always going to be a challenge. The utilities, electricity rising in cost, having the carbon neutral plan, how are we going to suffice large businesses, supply chain constraints in manufacturing, childcare in Skagit County, especially in Sedro-Woolley, is a big challenge, and then housing is a challenge. So those are all things they listed, but it seems like they could be.
I had a suggestion on the climate thing. I am a strong supporter of responding to our climate crisis, which is what I regard it as. However, we've had discussions on council, and I also agree with this approach that instead of the word incentivized is used quite often, and that implies government involvement, whereas I think a better term that might fly better with council would be encourage. I don't know if we can get by with that, but that seems to me that allows you encourage, but you know, maybe private development occurs more naturally. Private clean energy, private efforts to like the climate problem.
Seems like a lot of it is incentivized through subsidies. But I did read through the whole 246 pages. In the climate element, I was like the most opposed found, I think. But I really like what you guys did and how you wrote it. And if we could pass that down in Olympia as is, like, I think you guys did a really wonderful job working with what you have and then making it fit to our local economy. I mean, we have a lot of green space and we have a lot of fresh air around here, and we have a lot of lovely rivers and stuff. So yeah, thank you for doing that. It was very good report how you guys brought that together. And it does read a lot better than the 2016. Yeah, a lot better.
Can we have it both ways, use incentivize and encourage?
Yeah,
I see them both as two really positive things that have different.
I'm okay with that. I think the way I read the bullet points was asking us to incentivize it as opposed to the state, which obviously has some incentives. I'm okay with both, sure. Yeah, that's a good compliment.
We can have both,
Yeah.
It's hard to know it'll happen by 2045, and it doesn't say we've got to prioritize converting the fleet over tomorrow to electric, but that will be a very costly endeavor. That's going to be a substantial cost on the city for the taxpayers, especially probably with loan cost and charging stations and electricity for that.
I'll be 85.
Yeah. So at that point, they might be very cheap at that point. Tesla's got a pretty $1,000 car. But some of that stuff, it also encourages, it's kind of a contradiction in term as far as like making cheaper housing, making low income housing, but using materials that are energy sound, which you can get in a way, but they do cost more, especially with today's technology. So until somebody leads the way to develop a cost effective technology, that's really what's going to drive the culture with climate is when it does make sound because it makes money.
Chinese have developed EVs that cost 20 grand and they're working on a 5-minute charger.
And then all of our money goes to China. We want to try and keep it here. That's what's wrong with solar panels and a lot of that stuff is we're feeding another country's economy.
They're selling those to the rest of the world minus us.
Yeah. Because
Tariffs.
While we're on climate, I just have a couple of things on here, policy. Actually it's in the land use, but they're climate related things. The discouraging the use of wood burning as primary household heat. That's a good portion of the homes in town. It's much more cost effective to do that. If we're going to change the verbiage, then, discourage would be kind of based off of what, we were talking about the other week, Paul, with not using the word incentivize because we're not incentivizing anybody, but encourage, and discourage sounds like a little bit stronger of a word. And then also in the land use, it says ensure that local industries, commercial businesses, and residents comply with state, federal, and local environmental regulations concerning air quality. So if we're ensuring that, are we taking over the enforcement on that too? And are we going to have to hire an employee to go around and do that if in our plan it's saying we have to, or we're going to ensure?
I think it's already part of the plan because our reporting regulatory agency is Northwest Clean Air Agency.
Right.
And so isn't that in the existing plan?
Well, the only thing we would ensure is that we as a city are following those regulations, like our wastewater plant and everything else like that. But if we're going to be ensuring that local industries and businesses and residents are going to comply with that, then are we now becoming the enforcement hand on that?
It is like
reporting hand.
Yeah, the permit, if you get a business permit, it's like stating, are you following all state and federal regulations? And so I guess the assumption would be that they are going to these agencies, but you're right, if we're saying we're ensuring, would that make us the regulatory agency?
Which LU 20.3.
Sounds like another encourage to me.
Yeah.
Well, even encourage, because they still have to follow them, otherwise they're a violation of our state policy, and companies can be shut down pretty quickly for that. So I don't know if it really, we could say encourage and still get away with it, because that would mean like, maybe we don't need to follow.
The purpose we do as far as permitting goes and enforcement of Northwest Clean Air or DOE's regulations, what it might be is like if the project itself triggers SEPA review and we do conditions for the environmental impacts of that project, then we might put a condition, follow the regulations for Northwest Clean Air. But we're not the ones that go out there and enforce it. It's just kind of FYI more than anything else. Like you need to make sure you're getting your permits through.
That could be the perfect wording right there. Follow the local regulatory agency's requirements for, because we already have for stormwater a regulatory person that goes around and checks. So technically we kind of do enforce that in a way or ensure it because it's a partnership with the county. But yeah, follow state and federal guidelines.
All
I think you know where you're getting at.
Right, like, I don't want us to have the onus of, well, it's in our plan and people aren't following it, and I don't want the state being able to come back on us and saying, well, this was in your plan to ensure this, but you're not ensuring it.
Right.
Yes. So if we're going over verbiage, in the policy LU 11.3, encourage and promote development of minority business within the UGA. Can someone explain to me why we wouldn't just encourage and promote business? Why do we have to single out that? I don't care what color you are, what you're doing. I want your business. So why do we have to say it like that?
I was wondering about that too.
Yeah.
I was wondering why that was in land use and not economic development, if it was gonna be anywhere.
Why is it in there?
I think it was an effort, to incorporate more, equity into the plan, which is also a growth management requirement. And so we did, if you notice, we also put in some policies, not only in the land use element, but in some of the other chapters as well. And I think it was recommended language from the state.
That's unfortunate. As I think it's doing the opposite of what it's intended to do. And I don't like it personally, but if the state is requiring it, that's.
They're not required, they're just.
Well, then I personally not vote for something that says that.
I'd be in favor of removing it too, seeing how the state responds, but yeah, I caught that and I flagged it too, and it was an awkward statement. Goes without saying, everybody, we're gonna treat everybody equally here, so you like, yeah.
Say all business.
Yeah.
Period.
As long as it meets the zoning.
Speaking of zoning. Want to get into the cottage housing where it says consider cottage housing? Because if I remember correctly, the conversation that I heard from the majority of council was that they didn't even want to entertain that at all. So I didn't know why it was still in there.
Cottage housing?
Yeah.
We haven't finished it yet. We're refining it. It's really nice.
Well, I think part of our conversation, if I recall it correctly, was that we were discussing it and the fact that it's not an approved housing and it hasn't been approved by council, but it's in the comp plan. If it's not approved by council, it really sets us up for something in the future that's not approved. And so I was of the opinion personally, and other members can speak for themselves, that if it's not a current policy approved, it really shouldn't be in the comp plan. Because you're basically setting up future council to have to make a decision, or you've got somebody coming in and reading it and saying, well, this says that this exists, but really it doesn't, it's not in the policy. And I think there's some misconceptions in the public right now too, because I went to an open house meeting and there was a couple different developers that were like, oh yeah, this is already approved at the city. We'll move forward with this and this, but it hasn't been. So I think that, with people looking at the comp plan and all, there's becoming a misconception into what's actually approved and going on, and what's prospective projects still under discussion, because there still is a lot of different aspects of it to be reviewed and.
What's the timing on it? I thought we have a public hearing on that scheduled for next month, because we were refining a whole bunch of really different things.
So we got the recommendation for the planning commission to send it forward for recommended approval with council. Council had its first read. From my recollection of that meeting, the only two things that came up as far as negatives that I can remember was whether parking would be an issue because of the wildflower estates.
Yeah, that's a bad parking situation.
And whether the developments would pay for themselves. I didn't get an outright, this is not happening. So the plan was go back to planning commission, work on those things.
I would like to hear from what planning commission comes up with, because I think what we initially saw was a draft that wasn't all the way developed.
It's been a lot of work. I'll tell you right now, we spent a lot of time on it. Design guidelines. We're not talking shed like anything. We've been really talking a lot of things. So we sat there, let's say 3-hour plus meetings on different things, just even the densities, the configurations. Yeah.
I can see where you guys are coming from, where Donna's coming from too, and Councilwoman Diamond, because you obviously have to deal with the housing density or the low income that shows what we're deficit, I think, or 3 houses or something. But like you're saying, it's not in there yet. So if we put it in here, it may or may not. It still hasn't shifted. I don't think anybody's weighed a decision on either way, but it's just.
It could be, you'll make that determination. Let us finalize it, get it up to, because we never like sending anything up the line if it hasn't been really beaten into a place that we live here.
Right.
So we totally agree that we want something quality. And, yeah, it's a matter of a more affordable housing style, as well as getting density in there, okay, to provide, just to meet the GMA requirements on our numbers. And it's just, developers do not have to take advantage of that. The fact that it's in there and where it can be, what those regulation design guidelines are, I don't believe we're done with that. No.
I was wondering about that with the L1, the land use 1.4 for the Makers District and the rezoning over or the Thielen, the industrial area. And it talks about making, and we had a good conversation. Thank you, Tom and Nicole too, I had a bunch of notes that came in and talked with them for like an hour yesterday. But that I was curious about because there is 2 roundabouts there and they dead end at the fence, but this reads that there's going to be roads that are thoroughfares to Central Business District, and that the zoning is going to change over to this Makers District. But from my understanding, that was purchased recently to turn it into a manufacturing site with a campus. And I've heard different ideas. I've never actually talked to Peter or Susan who's making it or anything like that, but I've heard different ideas, rumors around the shops. And so it just surprised me to see that in there. Like there's roads planned to go through somebody's property that they just purchased. And one of my questions is, has anybody asked about that? If there's already a plan or if it's in play, but if nobody's asked about utilizing somebody's property like that, and then they're changing the zone or they're got it in here where we're going to put roads through the center of your newly purchased property, that probably could be problematic, I would imagine. It might be a great idea, but.
There's also a mention of housing in the Makers District too, and I was a little curious about that.
Because land use 3.8 talks about noise near the industrial area, talks about light manufacturing, and then it talks about the ability to actually have an industrial area or light manufacturing, which I think they kind of consider it industrial, being near that. So then you're going to have a little slight conflict. You're going to have residential houses in an industrial area almost, if that's their intent.
That, I can speak to that a little bit. That was John Coleman's idea. He made that overlay because he wanted CBD overlay on the Skagit plant because he didn't like the idea of that being, when you come right into town, you see the industrial complex. So he wanted that to go away. So he wanted, as a planner, so he got the transportation plan set up so that there were the roundabouts there, and then put the CBD overlay on it so that somebody could come in, buy the property and turn it into just more of the central business district, basically. And so that's why it's set up the way it is now. But that doesn't guarantee that the person who buys it wants to do that. It's already zoned industrial, and whoever owns Janikes, I think, they may want to keep it industrial. They may want to make it a maker space. They may want to do whatever, and they may or may not ever want to hook up the roundabouts. But anyway, that's why they're there, and that's why.
I think in this plan, it would include us rezoning it to a maker's district. And so at that, it wouldn't be industrial, it'd be light manufacturing, which could be tightly controlled, which could mean if this goes forward without having their consent, I mean, could that be problematic for the city? Might be something to just contact.
Is that correct?
So we don't have a distinction between light or heavy industrial.
Yeah, it's just industrial, yeah.
So, I think it's really important for us to think about what the vision for our downtown should be. What do we want people to see as they're entering our city? Right now, you hear from visitors that until, they ask their friend that lives in Sedro-Woolley, where's downtown? They don't know where it is because all you're met with is that big industrial park. So I support John Coleman's reasoning behind the transitional mixed commercial overlay. The idea at the time, as Pat was saying, was to kind of transition it over to more of something that could mesh better with the central business district and create that downtown feel, bring people in, increase economic development opportunity. But what happens when you have this overlay is you have the choice between, do I use the overlay regulations or do I use industrial? That plant has been industrial for God knows how long. Ages. It hasn't changed. It hasn't changed since like the 40s. So.
I wanted to do it. Rand picked it up.
Nicole has the floor right now.
Thank you. So Maker's District, making it an official zone, we can craft this to be whatever we want it to be. We're not, married to any of zoning regulations at this point. This is comprehensive plan. This is the visioning stage. So whatever we want to do as far as what we're wanting to see at the entrance of our city, we can make that happen. But I think that an official zone is the way to go.
And I'd like to add on that the city doesn't push roads through people's properties. We work with the property owner to help them bring their vision for the property to fruition. So what we show in there is an opportunity for development of that site or redevelopment or continued development of that site that works with what is already there. We're not changing the zoning, we're changing the name of the zoning, but it's still going to be allowing the same stuff that's already been allowed currently there now under the existing zoning.
We've gone and done site visits. Everything that's in there now falls under a light manufacturing.
And we've had this discussion with the owner too recently.
So what you're doing is allowing more opportunity, not less.
Right.
Yep, much more flexible zone.
On the cottage housing topic, I appreciate that your input there. I would like for planning commission though to finish its assignment to address the issues that were brought up by council before we make any decisions on that. And again, this is one type, the idea of being a different types of housing that we're looking at. And this is one example of it. So I don't want us to get wrapped around the axle there and spend our time talking about that.
That's great.
I think part of the hesitation there though is like one of the things that we get from the land use that clearly states that we're not changing any of our zoning, right? But if we're adding a cottage ordinance, then we don't even know what the density is there because we haven't been told. So
I've been told
what the density for the cottage housing is going to be and like what different areas are going to allow it. Is it allowed in R5 or R7 or R15 and have those areas been identified to actually, do we have the land for it?
Yeah, we're not there yet. We're not at that.
We're close enough.
But then should it be in this at all, then can we just take it out?
That was my biggest
We've-
concern
we've
is
got-
that it's not finalized and we still have all of these questions and here it is in the comp plan.
This is a draft comp plan, and the reason for this discussion is just for what you all are doing, exactly what you all are doing. Sharing your concerns, your opinions, any input, any ideas to maybe bring new ideas. That's what this is about. So this isn't etched in stone, not yet. So you will be voting on this, I believe you said in November sometime.
Yeah, October, November
Yeah.
timeframe. And the other part to this is not the development regulations. That follows this. So these are the generalized policies, if you will. Where the rubber hits the road is when we talk about the development regs. That'll take a lot more time to hammer out too. We have a ways to go yet.
Also, just for information, cottage clusters tend to be inside cities in more densely populated areas. And so our thing out here in Northern State, whatever you want to call it, Wildflower or the Crayola cottages or whatever you call them, they're an anomaly in the cottage world because they are out of town, away from public services, meaning transportation and stores and those kinds of things that people would want to interact with. Cottage clusters, traditionally, everywhere I've seen them, have been in densely populated parts of the city where there's still single family kind of housing. And so they're better because they're right on bus lines. It's easy to get to and from the store without a car. When this one was put in, the bus didn't even go up there. It turned in McGargle, and so people had to walk all the way down there to get the bus. And it only came once an hour. I don't know if that's still the case. So anyway, ours is an anomaly. It may work well, it may not work well. I'm not going to get into that right now, but it's not a typical place. Usually it would be like somewhere down here in the downtown, in one of the more densely populated districts, zone districts, as another choice for housing. And there's lots of good examples Paulsbo has good examples, Langley has good examples. There are tons of them in the Seattle area, and they're mostly in the proper place. So you can see them when they're working with. So I suggest that if you want to know more about it, that you hit some of those places.
John Coleman had sent out some pictures of cottage clusters, and it was interesting because it was both low income and also average medium home. So it just depends upon, I'm guessing, whatever is put into the home. So to make it affordable.
And that's the plan, is the affordability end, because right now housing is just on the charts. So it would be more starter homes. We're not talking mom and dad and 5 kids. You couldn't even put that capacity in there.
So would you wouldn't imagine something like the Wildflower, like right downtown by the senior center or something? Or is that kind of what you're thinking, like a really dense, like home cluster, like right downtown next to a bus and next to the store, next to the Mercantile, or is that what?
Well, not in the CBD, but yeah, maybe over by the senior center or someplace.
And I can't help but wonder if you're getting stuck on a visual of what it looks like. What do we call it? Skills development. That's, if you so that's one example, and that's also a very there are a lot of them there. But could you speak to that? The
Yeah,
different
so
sizes.
it's important to make the distinction. Wildflower Estates, that was done through a PRD process. Very different from what the cottage clusters are. So the way we have it proposed right now is a cottage cluster is 3 to 12 units, and each is done through a unit lot subdivision. So as long as each unit is able to meet the setback regulations that we have proposed for the cottage clusters, basically you can fit as much as the setbacks will allow. So the PRD is a lot different. So you still have to meet your minimum density. The difference with the cottage cluster is it's meant for infill development. So you're going to be looking at underdeveloped properties, maybe these old farming properties where it's one big house and acreage in the back, and 3 to 12. So PRDs, you're required to have like 3 acres at minimums that to be able to do. Cottage clusters require an open space centrally. They're just a different. PRDs have the larger lot sizes, a flexible variety of lot sizes, but I think it's like a minimum of 4,000 and some change, something like that. So they're 2 different things. Wildflower is not a cottage cluster.
Right. Thank you.
Can I touch on the transportation element? And it would be for the T 5.5. Well, no, that one's, I think we talked about that, encouraging the Sedro-Woolley Trail to turn to a concrete railway. Obviously, we're probably not going to be doing, but the map for the auxiliaries that we have going through, there's a principal and then the minor auxiliaries, and Minkler is not mentioned in the 2025 comp plan, but it was in the 2016 comp plan. And so it seemed like we were, I think by 2027, anticipating increasing that. That's why they had that Jameson increase, and then they put the roundabout on. So Minkler's at 50 miles an hour. It would eventually go into Railroad, Jameson, out to 9. 9 would take you south to Big Lake, to Mount Vernon, or to South I-5. And so it would have that around Sedro-Woolley directional, so everybody's not funneled on the north side. But in this map, it's not even listed as an auxiliary at all. Is that the plan? Bill, is that?
That's because Minkler's mostly in the county as opposed to the city.
Well, even on the plan that we had, it went into in 2016. Minkler was kind of incorporated as an access point into Jameson, and Jameson was the auxiliary road. Is that not right, or is that?
I'll look into it and give you an answer a little bit later.
Yeah, because I think that was, that's at least my talks with Mark. That was the idea.
Yeah, I would agree that Minkler is just like John Weiner was the northern east-west route.
Yeah.
Minkler, Jameson, Highway 9 is going to be the southern east-west alternative to sun.
Yeah, I would even imagine seeing the stop sign on Township in the Jameson be a through or a roundabout there or something at some point, right?
We did annex in property, did we not? There was. we
Yeah, that was-
annexed in property, and I think it was for the intention of just what you're sharing, Mr. Lot.
And we have a project on Railroad and James, turn that into a signal. There's or other intersection. Just because of that whole southern east-west connection. Piece. But, I'll take a look into the map changing.
Yeah, it's a great location if we wanted to divert a little bit of traffic off the north side. And, you know, especially if James Jones and John Liner's not getting done soon, which hopefully will be done by 2027-ish. Be good. We're all connected and everything.
Well, Jameson is an arterial road.
It's just not listed on here as that, right?
It's listed as a major collector.
Major collector, though. Yeah, I'll have to take a look at it. I can see it. So.
On the Parks and Rec, go ahead, sorry, Joe.
Oh, a couple times I see the term trolley park. Can you tell me what that is? We already explained this once.
I think that's the park with the red wall.
A park by Walgreens.
The train
Train.
on the big wall.
Are you sure it's not the trolley park that's over by Mestizos that was going to be with the old train depot there, and it was gonna be a trolley that would take you all upriver and then come back down? Got a sketch of it outside. Was it before?
I think that might be just a holdover in there from that when we were talking about doing the trolley downtown and the old station was gonna be built.
Great idea. I just don't know how we fund that.
That would be,
Got ripped up though, now it's a walking path, so your tracks are going.
it'd be a T 5.5 is still listed inside that.
5.5, so maybe take that out, maybe.
I'll take a look at it.
We can do it with the motorized trolley. No way. Be kind of cool. For the Parks and Rec, which looks great too, by the way, I thought. I was wondering if we can add something in there about the website, kind of, you know, we pushed a little bit to get the website, have an interactive map, but by 2045, have an interactive map, a kiosk, something that's really kind of bringing out that outdoor park circuit or the green space so that people, not only that it's out there, but they know that it's out there and then they know they can easily find it. So something about possibly keeping the website up to date. I think that would be a good point to that element.
An easy one.
Yeah.
I do like the idea of the kiosk downtown to help draw attention to people who come in. What's out there?
Have restaurants or even live video of parks to see if it's too busy. Yeah, have the ability to reserve a park if you want to down there. But a map you can just pull up and kind of scope around and look into it and see, I want to take this bike path up there. Because also in there is linking, and it goes along with the economic element too, is doing the bike trail, kind of linking things around. So a great way to do that would be to have some sort of a mapping system that people can easily, go to and have that point to see where they're going.
So I said I'd add it, but will that work though?
Sure.
Yeah.
Hammer Heritage would be a great place for that.
With lots of cameras.
We need a bike rental.
It'll get capitalized.
Yeah, let's go. We'll just have Van Halen sleep over there. Councilman, you're up there. There was one thing, and it's on page 155 of the packet. I didn't write down the ones of the actual comp plan, but it's under the, it would be the police element. And it says, I project that by 2045. And I just thought that was a weird statement because it's the only time I saw I included in the packet. And so I was thinking it could be something like the city projects or the police force projects or something like that. We don't know who I is, or we wouldn't be able to refer back to that.
It's a good catch.
Thank you.
also under police, I may have missed it, or maybe it's not appropriate in this to mention something about our police officer in the schools.
Yes,
It
sir.
seems to be a nice partnership between the police and schools.
I thought I saw something. In there.
Did you see something?
I thought it did.
Yeah, yeah, because that's a good partnership.
It was first proposed earlier than 2019, but I mean, even Senator Wagner came here and proposed it back then. I remember there was a meeting in October for him to like really push that. I don't know if Chief's not here, but see how soon we can actually get that done. It's been about 6 years. We funded it.
I think they're working on it.
Yeah.
I work in the high school library and I know it was in discussion at our morning meetings, our Wednesday morning meetings. Something about somebody being on campus, maybe this year. So I'm not certain of that, but
I think in our safety committee meeting, we were discussing it too. So hopefully, yeah, sometime this year.
That'd be great. I think the police have to be up to staff, full staff.
Yeah, they were. And it was actually proposed when we did the levy lid for the Sedro-Woolley Police Department 19.
So the stormwater element has it talks about funding responsibilities. Actually, there was one other little just statement change. In the policy ST 1.2, it says, and it's page 164, manage stormwater utility funds responsibly. I just thought that was a funny way of wording it because none of the other goal ones are stated in such a way where it says manage funds responsibly. Because I think it's just implied that we would do that or that would be done. I don't know, go through look at the other ones about how they do that. But since there is lids encouraged in the land use element, 17.4, then I think that we also talk about having enough funding for the stormwater facility treatment center. And then also being able to encourage the lid system, which obviously we'll have rainwater going into our gutters and the streets and all that stuff. But it seems like we wouldn't put as much of a strain on that system too. So are both of those kind of being weighed out? I guess it's more for Bill too. Because it seems like we're working towards the growth chart of the housing element in the stormwater, but then in the same time with the land use element and the housing, we're encouraging the lid system.
I guess I'll start by saying that's a little more complex than just a simple answer because encouraging LIDs, low impact development, stormwater requires you to have the right soils and location that you're trying to infiltrate it. For instance, if you have a shallow clay layer, infiltration is not going to be good at stormwater all the time. So it's very site specific. But certainly where you have soils that will support it, you certainly want to use it because that way each individual house development, whatever, is contributing less to the surface water than it otherwise would. But there are there's a need for some fuzzy language, very site specific, depending on where you are. You got to use we do the same thing for some leaves or roads and all that as well. And there is more sophistication we want to build into our fee structure for stormwater as well, so that we're rewarding people who are able to incorporate LIDs into the development of the building to do that. And so that's something also that we're working on this fall for us to figure out how that happens. But at the same time, it basically would be something in the form of some sort of form of discount for an LID post unit or somebody converts to LID, they can, that type of thing. But at the same time, still supporting the contribution to the overall utility as well.
So when it says in the policy SC 3.1 to develop funding to support enhancing the stormwater, that's kind of, are we developing a new funding outside of the fee that we're already doing for impact and our monthly bills? Because we see that in our monthly bills as well.
Yeah, I think really what that's referring to is as we are, as stormwater gets more sophisticated and there's going to be more funding opportunities, whatnot, to build facilities to to handle stormwater more comprehensively in the manner as opposed to individual manners, which is what we've been talking about before. And so being able to come up with those, I guess I'll call it priority set asides that we can now willing to lead into the system as a whole system, as opposed to, I guess, more specific targeting different strategies. We're pretty basic, I guess. There's some more sophistication thrown into that. So I think that's right.
And that kind of leaves room just to increase funding if needed, or develop funding, or get grants, something like that. I'm looking at it from a taxpayer standpoint. Where it's coming out of my wallet. You know? There was the page 217 jobs report. That data is not accurate, right? Or is that just a place filler or something?
Was that?
It's that chart that they have on the packet 217. It's got it's a green Excel sheet or spreadsheet, and it says that manufacturing in 2022 was 483, and 2025 was 483, and 2045 will be 508. So a 25 jobs increase. And so resources, it talks about being a 0% increase. In warehousing, transportation, and construction, there's only one added job by 2045.
What's the heading?
So this is the on page 217. It was that green spreadsheet for the job.
We had the actual document, not the packet itself. So,
so I think it's going to be 9 or something pages. Oh, he's got it right up. Thanks, Woody. So it's on screen. That's the one I was kind of looking at. Employment growth allegations by sector. So that's probably just a placeholder because we have to grow by that 3,000 jobs, right? This is what they're saying, that we would grow by so many jobs.
See where we got that, but it is I believe it's pretty recent data, but I'll double check that.
Well, yeah, the targets, I guess, are pretty low. Maybe it's because we don't know how to allocate that targeting. But if we're not anticipating any job growth, then that wouldn't go along with the comp plan to suggest that we're going to need to grow so many jobs.
It says it's from the Skagit Council of Governments Growth Allocations and Projections Report.
Limited to that, just the warehouses.
a second, I think we heard some, what was that?
Oh, I said it's from the Skagit Council of Governments. Oh, sorry, I pulled it down now. Can you scroll down just a little bit more, Woody? Oh, Skagit Council of Governments Growth Allocations and Projections Final Report from 2024.
Mayor, do you happen to, because you're on that board, right?
What?
You're on the board for SCOG. They pulled up that jobs report for Sedro-Woolley. I was just curious because we're looking at having right now like 4,000 jobs in Sedro-Woolley with a projected growth of about 3,000, which is up a little bit if you go up. But this chart doesn't reflect that. I don't know if that would be in the actual report or if we even want to put it in there because it's just kind of useless data that doesn't make any sense. And do
Yeah,
we? Yeah.
Well, I was just gonna say, we'll double check, and then if we feel, or if planning commission and council feel that it's not relevant, we can certainly omit it.
I would almost suggest putting out a survey to the businesses and just saying, how many people do you employ currently in 2025 in Sedro-Woolley, and be able to get maybe, hopefully a lot of feedback. I mean, we hear all that about the BLS right now, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, but
I know part of this, I remember the conversation that we had in SCOG regarding this. And of course, Commissioner Janicki was there and they were asking her about Janicki Industries and whatnot. And so she actually bumped up the numbers on from what they had. So it probably would be good to get clarification because it's really calling upon what.
Isn't that what the current investment in the SWIFT Center is right now? To plan more high-tech, higher income jobs. Wasn't that all planned for quite some time when this was on the table, what, 10 years ago?
The original, yeah.
Yeah, to get more high-tech up in that center.
As an incubator.
Was some of this pulled from the?
Look at this.
Yeah, I would imagine there's already been a substantial amount of growth around the area, but Sedro-Woolley just doesn't have like the spots right now. If that industrial complex does go forward with Sedron, that would be.
That's what that's around the area, yes, right? Like.
Oh, yeah. Well, like Hamilton's growing like double, right? Sedro-Woolley.
It's like, but in Sedro-Woolley, we have a limited commercial and industrial space, so the reality is what it is. You can build all of the housing, but the amount of jobs available will be limited to
That's-
space available and the type of jobs that can.
And I was wondering about the Makers District, because it's, obviously if that discussion's already been made, but the understanding was that was gonna be a Sedron complex for hundreds of employees there. And then increase at the Sedro-Woolley site, Manatee, with hundreds of more employees, plus there's other gray areas in the industrial zone that is proposed for other businesses to come in. So, yeah, you would see this grow, the manufacturing, goods producing jobs in Sedro-Woolley.
Sedron is busy right now. They're right next, they are slamming, they're pumping away stuff, so.
So I think, so this was pulled from the census. And of course, the census wasn't accurate because of COVID. There were things that, it didn't get, it got completed, but I don't know with how much accuracy. So, again, really great that you point this out, call it out, so that we have a chance to perhaps get more accurate information.
Doesn't the city have all that? I mean, like, if you have a business in town, you have to have a business license, and my business license requires me to tell how many employees I have and all of that. So you basically have all that information in-house.
Do you update that yearly?
Have to do it every year, yeah.
Yeah.
I have a home business.
Yeah, that would be a great way to source.
Look at the,
Yeah, thank you.
thank you.
So, if you don't have any other questions or comments.
Oh, I was letting other people go. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, go, yeah.
So, we talked in our last meeting about, the local improvement districts. Or, well, it's brought up in here as a local improvement district, but by way of, residential streets and repairs on residential streets, taking a break from applying for TID funding for some of the more major road projects that aren't needed quite as desperately as the local access roads. And what it says here in the policy is within neighborhood wards, encourage residents to organize local improvement districts to repair residential streets. So my understanding of a local improvement district, as it's been explained, I think in the past, is that you will locally levy funds in order to fix, pick a street, and so it's actually the neighborhoods raising their own taxes in order to support like that roadway. But we also talked about having the money set aside for the tip match funding and the TBD money set aside to start tackling some of these projects.
It's too good to build that.
So, so there's a couple things. Local streets are basically locally funded by the cities. One way to fund them is with the local improvement district, as opposed to low impact at all. And that is a method for everybody that will receive what's considered that special benefit to tax themselves to build that, whether it's a street, a sidewalk, sewer system, water system extension, or whatever it may be. And then the other option is basically to use local funds, general fund monies for local streets. That can be done in a couple of different ways. We do have 3 different funding sources in this city, other than just the general fund that we allocate for street improvements, and that's both our REAP 1 and 2 monies we receive, our transportation impact fees, and the proceeds from our transportation benefit district. And so with most of those funding sources, other than maintenance, some other different projects we will generally use most of that money to fund project match or funding sources, whether it's federal or state. And so one of the things that I've discussed on a couple different council meetings, which is something we're going to do in my department this fall, is start coming up with some of those options so that if we would rather, so it's a council decision whether we go use that money for grant matches, minor construction, or whether we eventually forego those grant matches a year or two or whatever, and then funds are strictly local street improvements. That we have priority lists for and start tackling some of those problems. The other thing that can and understanding the order of magnitude that that's going to take is important. One of the things council could also do is, like they did on Homestead Park, is take some money out of the excess reserves. That's local money. That's money we built up over the years as we understand budgets and different reasons why we put in things into the reserve fund. But that could also be done too. And what usually happens is it comes down to most communities is a choice between what you fund first, police, fire, or streets. Streets usually are the third choice in that last succession. So part of that's what my department's going to do is come up with some different strategies for some key priority streets that are only eligible for local funding at this time. Come up with some different ways we can tackle some of those over time. Split those into that priority next. But without having a good understanding of that, it's hard to pick and choose which ones. And to understand what that impact is, and then what some of the different options are for you as well. And I have some of those options as well. The chip seals and some other things that are a little cheaper than just full paging, but so the product with and county's not doing chip seals. So I do have experience with some of the different private construction companies. There are 3 of them in this area that do chip seals and good as well. I've actually called Steve Blanks that had our chip seals work before I left, and it actually lasted about 9 years, which is pretty darn good for the chip seal.
Yeah.
So I've heard that. So I'm actively looking at those different options. And those are things I will again present at council with those. You know, that's why cities have hard times with their city streets. City street I live on has light alligator throughout it. Building 85, it's gotten pretty darn good light for 4 years on. But that is not uncommon in large and small jurisdictions as well. But there are some things we can do. And I just kind of put those options together.
So I didn't capture this in the plan and the statement somehow. What was the policy? Is there a number?
It was LU 14.2.
Okay.
Councilman Henderson, there's also the T1.1 that says identify and improve substandard roads based upon the priority system, which accounts for both traffic demands and surrounding land use.
T1.1.
T1.1.
Thank you.
I think both of those kind of go into concert together.
Yeah, thanks.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
I jumped too soon before song plans. So as we said before, if you guys, tomorrow you wake up, you got a couple more questions, please write them down and send them to me, email. You can call me too, or Nicole, and we're happy to sit down and talk with you about it too. If there's some section that you don't quite understand or have questions about, please let us know. It's a process.
Just wanted to add, so this is the time to make changes. We'll also be getting more comments from the public. Appreciate your comments, and we'll be scheduling that open house, so we'll have conversation at that time with more public members. And then I anticipate there'll be quite a few changes by the time it comes back to you again for a second review.
Yeah, if your neighbors and friends, relatives, whatever, have questions, please invite them to come talk to us too, please. So we'll schedule an open house at some point. We need to take a look at our calendar and see what we can do. The next planning commission meeting is, right here. Thought I had it. I think it's September 16th. It is. We don't have to go for that specific date with, a recommendation to planning commission and public hearing. It was what I was kind of hoping for, but we might have to push this out a little bit. Yeah, so.
Can I make a proposal? Because we've been working really hard to get the comp plan done. Things like cottage housing, we just haven't had time to wrap that stuff up. So I personally have no problem doing double meetings or even triple meetings just to get a lot of this stuff wrapped up. And we've done really well. This has been a lot of work, but you're absolutely right. We need to clear a lot of the other stuff up and get that done. So we can move into that finalized plan. So I have no problem doing a couple meetings, if not more a month.
Thank you, Jim. Yeah, we did do some extra meetings and then I started to feel like maybe we're moving too fast. I didn't want to burden you guys too much, but okay, good to know.
I do worry just with the interesting workload.
Right. I'm speaking for you.
Yeah, plan review is picking up pretty quickly right now too, so I don't wanna, neglect one thing.
I apologize. You're not superwoman.
I suppose technically we have till December 31st, but we don't want to be on December 31st either, so. We'll figure it out. We'll take that in consideration too. That's some special meetings they've worked.
I was wondering if Madison, you read through the comp plan or approved it? What do you think about it?
I didn't get to do a full review of it. I'm not set up with everything, so I just noticed last night that it was uploaded. Overall, I feel like it's going in a good direction, but I feel like there might be some better ways to make this feel more actionable. Obviously, it is a comprehensive plan. It's not a strategic plan. It's a long-term plan. But in general, I think that we could probably talk about some tools, some other options that make things feel actionable. I feel like comprehensive plans often are like, oh, we're going to do this. And then what's the measurable goals? Like, what are our key performance indicators? How are we like seeing this all come together and measure what's happening?
Thank you. And I think Ashton had a comment.
I just have one final announcement. I have some of your emails. This applies for the public too, if they want to. But we do have a distribution email list for the comp plan. Some of your emails are on there, some of them aren't. So if you want to sign up, just come get me after the meeting and I'll add you to the distribution list.
Great.
Yeah.
All right, Christopher, I want to thank Donna for being here, as well as Matt and Alex for the presentations. Greatly appreciated, greatly appreciate the hard work, as well as the planning commission. You guys have worked very, very hard to make this happen. You got some good leadership right here with both Tom and Nicole, also with Ashton. Greatly appreciate the fact that you're working so hard on this. I think we're making good headway, and appreciate the comments that were made tonight, because we're going to take this and you're going to take this. I'm just going to read it, but they're going to take this and hone it and bring it back, and we'll have this discussion again, so that you'll be able to look it over, see if it actually says what you want it to say. So with that, if there isn't anything for the good of the order.
One more thing.
Yes.
So this community review report, if you hadn't already seen your email, I sent it out electronically too. So give it a good read. There's a lot of good stuff.
So thank you, Carl, for submitting that. Okay. With that,
I had just a general question.
Yeah.
Just because cottage clusters has come up, and because the planning commission has sent it to city council and city council has asked planning commission to revise it, are we allowed to talk openly about some of the concerns there? Because for me, I think there'd be a lot of efficiency in hearing that feedback, and I think that we need to take back to city
Right
council.
now?
Are we allowed to do that?
I'm not sure.
Are you okay with that?
No,
It'd be great.
It's not on the agenda.
I would rather not do that right now because we are not prepared for that discussion. But we will, when we bring this back to planning commission, we will capture as much as we can, perhaps even re-listen to the recording from city council, make sure we got it covered.
Yeah, it's been a while since we covered it, and I want to have
the information fresh on my mind, so I can reference. it.
Yeah.
A good idea.
Yeah.
I like it.
Good suggestion. With that, so both Tom and Nicole, they've already opened up the opportunity for you, if you have ideas, city council members, if you have ideas, if you have concerns, you want to make sure that you're heard, you can certainly push it out to them. You should have their emails. If you don't, contact me and I'll be sure that you get their emails. So, yeah, all right.
I just had one quick thing. So I was watching an online meeting yesterday, and Nicole, you were in it, and it was about, it was a hearing examiner thing. And one of the things I noticed that we haven't put into our code, and you had mentioned that, was the newer RCW for increased density on religious properties. And we haven't identified what the amount of density can go in our code. So is that something we want to have in the comp plan too? Because that's actually being it's being talked about as part of what for our lower income band housing. If we're able to identify that and put it into our code, then we know what we're expecting.
I think that's a great idea. Do something more all-encompassing, talking about transitional housing, shelter housing, emergency housing, all of that sort of stuff. I want to be careful not to put in like a set limit in the comp plan, just something that we can kind of put as an action item to work through for our development regulations. But yeah, definitely it's a good idea to do. Because all we have right now, as far as regulations go for that kind of subset of housing, is the the temporary homeless encampments. That's it. So
With Councilman Henderson saying, we're suggesting prevent the circumventing of the city council to the state using an RCW to get cottage homes in place, adding it into our municipal code, or having some sort of criteria in the municipal code. Right now, I think it just kind of it was one of those things I think people discussed, and the tiny cottages were mentioned, and then all of a sudden, the next thing I know is the council room is completely full, and people are saying the council approved a tiny cottage or a cottage home place at the church.
So what happened there, so this RCW that Mr. Henderson is talking about, it allows a density increase for properties that are owned by a religious organization who want to provide affordable housing. Cities may choose to add a cap to what that density increase is. It's not a requirement. City of Sedro-Woolley has not done that yet. So with this RCW acquiring that and having not had any regulations surrounding the transitional housing, and this not quite falling into the permitted uses for the R7 zone, that's why it went through the conditional use permitting process, which is approved by a hearing examiner and not council. So it's not that it was purposefully circumventing council as the decision maker on this. That is just the mechanism that we could use for this to make sure that we are conditioning this permit appropriately for the external factors that we can control, such as fire access, parking, what else, design review, landscaping, open space, setbacks, those sorts of things. But as far as the density cap, we don't have anything in code to work off of, so.
Good suggestion. Yes.
I had one more thing. I have got several things I want to talk to Tom and Nicole about. But there's one that I check in every once in a while because nobody ever seems to know the answer to this. But so Sedro-Woolley chose to be, from its very beginning, to be a crossroads city, right? We had somebody at the governor's office tell us where everything was going to cross, and that's where the town is. But that brings up the issue of in 2001, when I joined the planning commission back in the dark ages, The plan for Sedro-Woolley, as far as 9 and 20 was that 20 was, or 9, or 20 was gonna go from George Hopper Road up the river. And this was before shoreline management, and they were gonna build a big dike, and they were gonna run the road on there and bypass Sedro-Woolley. And now it would be kind of back then it wasn't something anybody was looking forward to, because it would have turned us into a ghost town. Now that's not probably an issue. But I'm curious what the plan is for that. And the other is 9. They never had a plan for 9. I know it's now the truck corridor, and 9 is, and I've heard that that's also going to be the next freeway. As 5 gets busy, they will start building out 9 as a freeway. So my question is, where does that play into Sedro-Woolley's transportation plan? Are we planning for the fact that 9 and 20 are going to start getting widened? Are they going to get widened to the middle of town? Are they going to go around town and do some kind of intersection out west of town or out east of town? What is the plan, and how are we preparing for that? And you don't have to give me an answer right now, but it's something I'd like to see in the comp plan, and it's something I'd like to have an answer to as a planning commissioner, because it affects the town in a huge way. I've seen so many towns cut in half by freeways. We would get double cut eventually by freeways if they go right through the middle of town. So those are things I'd like to know for future planning. Yeah.
I was up in Port Angeles when they did that for swim, and it was a big deal. Moving 101 around swim, and they were really upset. Charlie, were you over there at that time?
I was not there at that time, but
Yeah,
they
it was
were really
big.
upset. The town was gonna come to an end, and it turned out to really help. Cut down on congestion.
Yeah. You used to have to go right through town. It was like, oh my gosh, like waiting every light. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, this is nice. Yeah, same thing.
There's nothing else? Y'all have a good evening. We're adjourned.